So today I have Shalom,
Yeah.
a chiropractor, and you are the owner of Flight Chiropractic and Wellness.
Correct.
And you have been an owner of this for 15 years now.
Yep. Going almost 16 years. Yes. Yes.
So, Shalom, I met you through someone recommended you to me when we had my younger daughter.
Yep.
She had very bowed legs, and we went to see another chiropractor. And Andrea, she was very young. She was 1 year old, and they didn't want to do anything. They said she was too young. Now she's 2.5, and she has straight legs. Thank you.
Yay.
I want to ask you about your childhood.
Yep.
So you grew up in Israel.
Yes.
Please tell me, how was it about your childhood, about your mom and dad? What was it like to grow up in Israel?
So I think that growing up in Israel is a really, really interesting experience, because Israel is such a complex thing. So the first thing to say is that Israel was formed only in 1948.
Okay.
And if you can think about it, the Holocaust, so the end of Second World War was 1945. So that's just very short time after the war. So Israel is a very young country.
Like Australia. Well, I guess.
Yeah, but Australia was formed in, I think, 1901, and it formed, I don't think there was a war or anything, while Israel, everything comes out of conflict.
Okay.
And both of my parents are immigrants from another country. So my dad is a policeman, my mom is from Lithuania. My dad was married to another woman that, get this is interesting. Her parents are from Iraq, but she grew up in India and came back and came to Israel. So you have these all kind of very interesting combinations of, and so there's so many different things that are happening, the whole Jewish thing, Israeli thing. I was the last son of my dad, so my dad was married to a woman named Miriam. She passed away because of cancer. She had breast cancer. My dad had 4 kids with her, and then when she passed away, he married my mom a few years later. So there's just a lot of things that are happening at the same time.
Interesting. So in a way, you are the only child.
It's true. It's true. It's a really interesting combination.
Did you have your siblings in the house when you were growing up, or they were already gone?
By the time I was born, I think they were still at home. But so my oldest brother was 18 years older than me. Then sister 17. 16 years, another sister, Zelda, she passed away by now, but 16 years older, and then a 13 years older than me. So they're all much older than me. But by the time so as a baby, I think they were a bit in the house, but as I was growing up, I was like an only child with siblings.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
So you had, so your dad had you at the age of 46.
Yes, yeah, which is really interesting if you think about it. And I think about it a lot now. I am at the age that my dad was when I was born.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, what would it feel like to have a baby now after all my children already much older? Yeah. So it's really, really interesting. And my dad was a very complex kind of person with a very interesting childhood. And so it was interesting growing up in this house.
I remember you mentioned to me that your mom only speaks Russian to you.
Correct.
And that's interesting to me because I'm Russian.
Yes.
She still speaks only Russian to you.
Yeah, when she came to Israel, I think she was 32. She spoke only Russian. She didn't know
wow.
Hebrew. And so the time I was born, she spoke with me Russian.
Yeah.
She still speaks Russian to me, although some will say it's like an Israeli Russian, Russian Israeli,
A mix.
a
Yeah.
mixed. And I'll say that now it's kind of a more like an old-fashioned Russian.
Okay.
But yeah, like Russian culture, I grew up with the Red Army Choir. My parents spoke, so Russian music, I had Russian music at
Okay.
home. My parents spoke between them in Russian.
Oh wow. So your dad knew Russian.
My dad was absolute, like as a child, he was in Russia as well, which will be both the story, but my dad read Russian, perfectly spoke Russian beautifully. He was, I think, if he spoke something like 6, 7 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was good, he was smart. And so I spoke to both of them in Hebrew,
Okay.
and they spoke to each other in Russian. And my dad spoke to me in beautiful Hebrew, and my mom spoke to me in Russian.
What was their parenting style? Were they gentle, or was it that generation, I guess, more tough love?
That's a great question. That's a really, really good question. So number one, it's worth remembering that I'm the single child of my mom.
Yes.
That was a single child to her mom. That was a single child to her parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so by me having 2 girls I'm actually breaking a tradition of single
Okay.
child. And so both of my parents were older when I was born.
So they were more gentle.
I think so, and I think that my dad, with my siblings, he was, he was a boxer. He was a very tough man, and so from what I understand, he was, let's say, more punished them harder. And
Okay.
I heard a lot about the belt and stuff, but
I experienced the belt.
yes, but I was a nerd. I was a little, really goody kind
Right.
of good boy.
So you didn't give them much
Yes,
reasons.
that's exactly right. Enough that my dad will say that he's disappointed in me and I will be crushed and crying
Okay.
forever. Yeah, I was a sensitive little boy. Yeah, so it was very different. My mom's parenting was like my biggest fan kind of thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
so she was really encouraging.
all very encouraging. Like my mom can't still say that I'm a bad singer. She still will say to anybody that I can sing, which is an obvious lie.
Okay.
And my dad was just I don't know. It was more about we were talking a lot. My dad and I spoke a lot. I was asking all the time questions. He was telling me things, and we had a lot of great conversations.
Were you allowed to have a different opinion to your dad? Was it tolerated to have a different opinion?
With my dad?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in my house, having a different opinion was always encouraged. Always like that idea of challenging beliefs.
That's incredible.
Constantly, yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting, that constant conversations, and I think even in the time now compared to now, very it's a house I've never heard anyone saying anything ever racist, anything. Nobody was better than anyone else. I've never heard anyone being not tolerated. From that point of view, very open
That's so
minded. Like
beautiful.
everyone is accepted.
Yeah.
Like I know that it's really strange, but so my dad is a police officer, worked in Gaza. So I remember in my childhood having a family of. So when he was in Gaza, a police officer in Gaza, he worked with now you'll call it Palestinian, then Arabic men, and his family really loved my dad, so they will come to our house. So it was, and the next door neighbor was, my mom's best friend was Iraqi woman, you know, like there was just open-minded
Right.
all through. Never heard anything negative about anyone else, and I really, really appreciate it.
It's very refreshing, especially I'm assuming for that place and that generation, because for me, growing up in Russia, different opinion, especially in politics, was not tolerated and still is not tolerated, and I had to rebel against that, and I did hear certain beliefs, you know, that I don't share about different nationalities. So it's amazing. So your dad was a police officer, and then I know that he became a healer, and that inspired you to become a chiropractor. Can you
See, that's an interesting thing. This is an interesting journey because both my big brother and I are chiropractors.
Okay.
Yeah, and I find that so both of us, if we make it really interesting, we both use our hands for healing.
Yes.
Now, my dad has a really interesting story. Can I share it for a second?
Absolutely.
So my dad was born in 1930.
Okay. That's my grandma's birth.
Yes.
Actually. Yep.
And so he was born in Warsaw in 1930. And from what I know, in 1939, he saw the Nazis walking into Warsaw.
Wow.
And then I think that initially what happened is that the Nazis said, okay, we open the gates, you can escape. And so, from my understanding, because I'm picking up information that from little that I can hear or I could gather, my dad's dad, I think, was Austrian. So and so they escaped from Poland into Russia.
Okay.
Then my dad was put in an orphanage. So I know of stories where they were traveling in the snow.
Okay.
And my dad's big brother saved them in the snow. They almost died. There's some crazy stories that happened there. And then from what I know, my dad was put with his little brother in an orphanage. And then the family continued.
Yeah.
My dad escaped from there at the age of from the age of 9, I think.
Where was he in the orphanage? Which country?
In Russia.
In
Russia. He
so
was
your
in Russia.
dad, how long did he stay in Russia in the orphanage?
So from what I understand, they escaped from Poland to Russia. He was put in an orphanage there, escaped from the orphanage, and lived on the streets. Basically, he traveled all the way all through Russia, like Siberia and all of these. The end of the war, so on his own, a little boy on his own, surviving on his own. In the end of the war, he went back to Warsaw to look for his family. He thought
crazy.
they're all dead.
Yeah.
Now I know, just a month before he died, that he went to Germany. He basically made money, survived by having a street fight. Like he would fight for money, for food.
My God. It's like a movie.
It's like a movie. It's a crazy movie. And then he somehow traveled from there to India, from India to then Palestine, so before Israel was formed in 1947. So if we're calculating, my dad would have been on his own from around the age of 9 or 10 to until he was 17.
Wow.
Came to Israel, and in Israel he joined the military police.
Okay.
And from there became a police officer. And the interesting part is, the story goes, he was walking on the streets of Tel Aviv one day.
I've been to Tel Aviv.
Nice.
Yes.
Sin City. I call it Sin City. Yes.
Maybe.
And he saw his sister on the street. And she leads him to all of his family.
How did he know it was his sister?
I have no idea.
Interesting.
No idea, but by that point, so he assumed that all his family died in the Holocaust.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she led him to
the family.
To the family. I think there were members of. I think I'm just saying what I know, that his big sister lost her child and husband, I think, in the Holocaust. I'm not sure what happened to my dad's dad. Yeah, so this generation, he never spoke too much about it.
I see.
Yeah. So he was a police officer, but he had a gift. My dad had very special hands.
Okay.
Very special hands. So he would be able to put his hand over people's body and pain will go away. Yeah. One time he had energy coming through his hands, real energy. I remember one time I said, Dad, really, do you really? And he put his hand over my hand and says, hold it as long as you can. And I just couldn't, because I suddenly felt, when someone put a lighter under your hand and it just starts burning you and you just have to take your, that was my dad.
Crazy.
It was a normal occurrence for me to walk on the streets of, to have lunch with my dad, and someone will be like, I have a headache, I have a migraine, I can't get rid of it. And you're like, can I put my hand on your head?
Interesting.
Okay. And within 20, 30 seconds, the person will be pain-free.
He was quite famous healer in Israel.
People knew about him,
yeah.
but he never made money out of it.
Really?
Never.
So that wasn't his
Ever.
job?
Because, no, he was
that
a police
was out
officer.
Of the good. So he was the police officer all his
Police officer until he retired. He never made any money out of it, although people will come and say, can you please... So I remember that our neighbor from third floor, something happened to her. I was a kid, and I remember that they came to get my dad to help her.
Yeah.
My big brother, Itzik, the 18-year-old, 18 years older than me, the chiropractor, when he was a child, the nanny gave him, the sunflower seeds?
Yes.
And I think one of them he swallowed. And it started, now I know, it started growing up inside his lungs.
Wow.
Which brought crazy bouts of coughing. Itzik reports that he had coughing until he almost bleed, like he would cough blood. And my dad would be at work and he will come home and just does this thing on my brother's chest and the pain, and it will stop. And one time he was coming late and my brother was coughing more and more blood and it was becoming like really, really dangerous. And in the last second my dad came and it stopped.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, that was a normal occurrence. The whole even conversation about telepathy, for example. So something that is so weird to other people was a normal occurrence in my life. Like we would sit in the car and do telepathy games. Just out of the blue. That think of a number, is it that number? My dad would say...
So your dad would guess it, but did you, or was it...
Both
ways?
He just like, now, I'm at my age now thinking about it, it was like training for extra sensory experiences.
To trust your intuition.
Yes, very much. It's funny, I have shivers thinking about it. That's exactly right. Like, do you remember Uri Geller, the very famous, so there was an Israeli, he's still alive, Israeli, depends who you're asking, a guy that was, can bend forks and spoons.
I heard of them. Yeah. I don't know this one.
So it's a guy, Uri Geller, very, very famous. And I remember Uri Geller being on, in the afternoon there was like a show where kind of like
he would
news interviews kind of like thing. and Uri Geller was on the show.
What is his name again?
Uri Geller.
Uri Geller.
Yeah, Geller. Uri Geller, very famous. He was a friend of Michael Jackson. He was huge.
Interesting.
He's famous because one time he drove a bus down towards the Dead Sea
Okay.
on a bus with people from the kibbutz, people I lived with, that he was completely blindfolded. He was driving a bus with people blindfolded, all kind of that kind of crazy stuff, finding oil by looking at a map, all kind of crazy stuff. But that opportunity, they put in front of him multiple boxes of like matchboxes.
Okay.
They were all empty, but in one of them there was a gold ring. And he just passed his hand over the boxes.
That's
and
your dad.
No, that's the
okay.
Uri Geller.
Yep.
And found the ring.
Okay.
And I remember being like, oh my God, Dad, did you see that? Abba, that's crazy. Did you see this? And my dad is like, oh, you can do it too. And we went to the kitchen, and my dad taught me to do exactly what Uri Geller did seconds ago. And I just
feeling the energy.
Yes, because what
because
happens...
it had more energy, that box. With
when
the ring.
you pass your hand over gold, it creates like little heat in the hand. You just feel something
Interesting.
kind of like, yeah, like touching. And so it, you know, like, so it's really interesting. It's that what seemed to people extraordinary became for me a normal occurrence.
So did you always wanted to be a chiropractor?
No. I never thought of, even when my brother was a chiropractor, I never thought I'm going to be a chiropractor, but I think it kind of chose me. Yeah, I think it just chose me. Somehow it chose me. Like when I saw what chiropractic was doing, so for my wife, Helene, she was sick, and she had an adjustment with my big brother, which made a big difference. And then when we came to Australia and I heard about the philosophy of chiropractic, I was like, that resonates with me somehow.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, I went to study, I wanted to become a chiropractor.
So you didn't do it in Israel when you came to Australia?
Yes.
Your wife is Australian.
Yes.
You went to study and then you started your practice.
Yes, so I studied at Macquarie University at Sydney.
Were you ever scared to start your own business? Like, because you could go and be a chiro with some other bigger chiro.
That's a great question. So I never thought about it. I think that I thought that what I'm doing was so unique and different at the time. I never thought there will be someone that I can do it under. So I said, I just need to do my own thing. And I think that that's maybe a theme. For me, it's kind of like one of those things about me is that I need to do me.
Yeah.
And especially the woman that was my mentor, Dr. Sue Brown, a chiropractor from the US, she created biogeometric integration. She talked a lot about mastery. And for her, mastery is about you doing you the best you can. So she had that saying that nobody can do Sue Brown. Only Sue Brown can be Sue Brown. You need to be Shalom Drimer.
I love that. So you met her. She was your actual mentor.
Yeah, I was doing her seminars and got to talk to her a lot. And
interesting.
And yeah, she believed that her job is to create masters that one day will be there teaching instead of her.
Interesting.
So it wasn't about...
Not the follower of Sue Brown, but...
That's exactly right.
Inspire people to be the best they can be in their craft.
It's exactly
It's amazing, because as an actor, I think actors doubt themselves so much, and I think that idea of being the best you can be as you, not as, Kate Blanchett or someone else, is amazing.
Yes, and if I can mention, and I said it to you in the past, I find the profession of the art of being an actor fascinating. To me, it's fascinating because it is going inwards. It's creating a process of you, and like I think all of us are acting in our life. You know,
Yes.
like we are all actors, and I think it takes a lot of courage to be there and to be able to constantly examine yourself and create aspects of yourself, or finding aspects of yourself that you need to put in another person's character. I find that fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Back to chiropractic. Okay. I know that I noticed every time I see you, you read a lot, and you know, you mentioned Sue, and then you always tell me about the books you read, so you're constantly evolving,
Exploring, yes.
exploring,
Yes,
exploring.
yes.
So did you feel you were ready once you finished your degree? Was that the natural progression for you to look for, I'm assuming, the room to
Yep, I found a place and then say, yeah, okay, let's start doing that. I remember having one client. That's it. I think that's the when you're young and you're stupid, then that's the gift.
Yes, for young and stupid.
Yeah, you do crazy things. You know, like now knowing what I know, I'll be like, I don't think I should be doing that, but I did, and it worked. And I just needed to be me.
Okay.
And in a bizarre way, who is me constantly change on daily basis for the last 16 years.
Yes.
And so that's part of that part that is so interesting. I continue to evolve. I continue to change. I continue to learn and trial and fail again and fail again, and then find success. And so yeah, I just open a practice in initially it was in Glebe.
Yep.
And then which is funny how we found the place. My wife had a dream, and in the dream she saw a red chandelier.
Interesting.
And when we came to this shop in Glebe, the next door to the practice or to the shop
Yeah.
was a cafe that had a red chandelier. She saw the chandelier. She was like, "That's
This
a
is
chandelier."
the sign.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why did you read about chiropractic before you went and enrolled yourself in university?
No, no, I think that, so remember that my brother was already by that point
Right.
a chiropractor in Israel. I had very interesting experiences in Israel with chiropractic. So, for example, when I was 14, I moved from the city that I was born, which is Ashkelon,
Okay.
north of the Gaza Strip, to another kibbutz overlooking the Dead Sea. It's a botanical garden. It's the only botanical garden in the world that people live in.
Wow.
And all of my brothers and sisters at some point lived on this kibbutz. And when my brother finished studying chiropractic, when he came back, he would do a weekends at the kibbutz practicing conventional chiropractic.
Okay.
And he became very successful there, very busy, so much so that people were going to see him and not the medical doctor. So he would be the one that people will ask constantly
Okay.
what to do. And if they say, okay, you need to go and see the medical doctor, they will go. But he became it. And you know, like I was a teenager carrying
Yeah.
the thing. But when I went to the army and I had my initial training in the army.
How many years? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years
I
in
was,
Israel.
yeah,
Yep.
so from the age of 18 until 21.
Okay.
You know, the initial training was really, really hard. I was putting a lot of weight on my body, running, not sleeping well, you know, like running 40
Training, yep.
kilometers a day. And me and half of my platoon developed a urinary tract infection.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember walking on the streets of my kibbutz, and I met my brother, And just by chance, I didn't really think much. I was like, by the way, this is what's happening. And before I left, the medic gave me some antibiotics,
Okay.
which I don't even know if I took. And then, so I meet my brother, and he says to me, "Does this hurt?" And he just went and touched my one area in my spine, the lumbar spine, where now I know nerves are going into the kidneys, and that does hurt. And I was like, yeah, that's awful. That really hurts. And he gave me an adjustment that day, and another adjustment the next day. When I went back to the army, I had nothing. I was just, well, the rest of my platoon was still sick, yeah? And so that was kind of my first glimpse of the power of the body to heal itself if you help it in the right way. If you put the right input, the body can heal itself. And that was my first glimpse into it. And so later on, when I saw what chiropractic was doing for my wife, and I heard the philosophy of chiropractic, I was like, okay, I'm going to do that.
So I'm assuming because you went to university, right? So to study that. So there is a part of it where it's science.
Yep.
And there is a part of it that is spiritual.
You can say, yes.
And also, I'm thinking about your dad somewhat having a gift.
Yes.
And then your older brother being very successful, meaning that he did help people if he was successful.
Yes.
Right? In chiropractic
Absolutely.
as well. So do you think that a random person who goes and studies chiropractic, not so much into spiritual, can help people?
Absolutely. Yeah, so and this is the interesting part. I think that chiropractic is the third biggest healing profession in the world.
What are the first two?
I think conventional medicine and dentistry.
And then, okay,
Yeah.
all right, interesting.
Yeah. So it's a very big, and you have. I don't think people realize the amount of research that is being done in chiropractic. Enormous. So we were talking about infinite amount of papers that are done constantly. There's enormous amount of research that is done by every chiropractic department around the world on this evidence-based medicine.
It's so interesting you say that, because I was getting ready for our conversation and I Googled it, and questions come up, right?
Yeah.
And someone asks, is it the true, science? Like, is it, or is there any proof behind it? Or
Yes.
is it? And even Google says, yes, there is huge amounts of work and proof that, it works and it helps.
Absolutely, and it is a gold standard. It's a gold standard. What gold standard means is, if you have this condition, this is what you should be doing. Yeah.
Okay.
And with things like lower back pain, with disc injuries, all kind of things like that, chiropractic is a gold standard. So they, from a point of view of, like, when one goes to study chiropractic.
Yeah.
99.999% of what they learn, it's all just the same research, the same papers, it's science, the same as any other medical doctor, as a dentist, yeah.
Okay.
Like the research from orthopedics to physiology, anatomy, neurology, even more, the amount of neurology, like nutrition. Chiropractors study nutrition. I'm not sure that medical doctors do nutrition. So there's very wide kind of education in the sciences. There's a lot of papers that are, a lot of research into different ways of adjusting and why this works, and all kind of theories, and yeah.
I have this question. So based on my own experience, having my back then 1-year-old having really bowed legs, and people asking, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
I, as a mother, had a feeling she will be fine, but people kept asking, so we took her to GPs a few times, and they didn't refer us to a chiropractor. Then somehow we found you. Well, we found a different chiropractor. He said he can't do anything. We found you, and I saw the results. I saw it was helping her a lot. And to get the rebate, I went back to my GP saying, I found a chiropractor. It's working. Can you please write us a referral?
Yeah.
And they didn't. So why do you think there is still such a stigma about chiropractors? Why they don't want to? Why the traditional medicine, that your common GP doesn't want to refer people to get chiropractic help?
Yeah, well, do you have an hour? Do you have an hour? I think that it's such a complex and big issue. I think that number one, I would say lack of knowledge. Yeah, lack of knowledge. So what happens is that a lot of the time, a lot of doctors don't know exactly what chiropractors do. They just heard something. Yeah, even I was told that the first lecture in a physiotherapy course, the first lecture is why chiropractors are bad for you, right? And so,
yes,
so there's
they
a
do.
lot.
They try to refer us to physio.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of, I think, misinformation about it. There's a lot of lack of knowledge. Like in every profession, and this is important to say, there are good chiropractors and not great chiropractors. And
As there are surgeons.
like in everything. And so I think it's a combination of a lot of things. The other thing is a lot of GPs here think of chiropractors just as a musculoskeletal thing, and they have to work in the rules that they're being given. And so if the government says, okay, you can only refer to a chiropractor for A, B, C, and D cases, then that's what they can do. So it becomes a complex thing. It's the whole, like, from what I know, I might be wrong, but in the past, every citizen in Australia could get, I think, 12 adjustments a year. Yeah, so
Under Medicare.
Under Medicare, and now it became into 5. Yeah,
Oh.
and the people
So they
that say
reduced it.
they reduced it. You see, but one of the things that the research actually shows is that people that go to chiropractors they go less to the hospitals. They're less a burden on the public system.
Interesting.
And so for me, that's the best value for money, because if you can have more people well and better outside of the public system, where the hospitals and the GPs, that takes the load of the system. And chiropractors always get good reviews with people feel connected to chiropractors, like to their chiropractors, and we get usually.
It also contributes that it is the physical touch.
Correct.
Right.
So it's all about the connection. People connect they choose a chiropractor that they like and they connect with, and they get better and they stay better. And there's and so all of those things make a difference. And so why there's a lot of negativity about chiropractors? A lot of people look on YouTube and they see those chiropractors in the US doing all these massive, crazy things, yeah, which is great for social media.
Right.
But to a lot of people, look very, very weird and crazy, and so that can create a lot of issues. Now, it's worth mentioning that in chiropractic, you have something like 210 different techniques that will go from a manual adjustment where you'll hear cavitation and cracks, to the most light contacts, to instrument adjusting, which, like...
I remember those.
Yeah. So there's all kind of methods, so many different methods. And so many times what works for one person in here might not work here, or what makes sense to a person in here, that person doesn't like. I remember when I started and I used very light contacts, people will be like, where's my crack? Why are you not cracking me? Is that all?
I
He
feel
just
like
touched me.
it's almost in the head of value for money. If someone is,
Yeah.
you know, having a great impact on you physically, you think, oh, they are
Correct.
working or something.
Yeah, something happened.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a person when I just started, and I was just using very light contacts, just really light contacts. And I remember that I had a client that was very in a lot of pain, really, really chronic, did not have relief for years. And I did an adjustment just with light contacts, and he stood up and he said, "Wow, I feel amazing. I have no pain in my body. And I just want you to know you're never going to see me again." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because what you did makes no sense to me. So I don't know what you did. I can't come." And I remember standing there
That
and
is
saying,
so strange.
yes,
You got the relief.
correct, for you
But
and
he
for
did,
me.
but he didn't understand.
He did not understand what I was doing.
So I guess one reason about the stigma around chiropractic is because people they can't explain that.
They don't fully understand it. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. And so people tend to go to where things make sense to them.
Yes.
And many chiropractors will tell you that many times they are the last resort. So people will do 10, 15, 20 years before they will go and see the chiropractor. So by that point, their body is already really chronic. So then, yeah, so this is an interesting way.
Okay. When I was doing my research, I found that Daniel David Palmer considered to be the founder of chiropractic.
D.D. Palmer, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you consider, well, did he influence you or he didn't? What do you think about him and his view on on chiropractic and traditional medicine? And do you agree with his, I don't know, thoughts about chiropractic?
The answer is yes, but so in chiropractic, there are a lot of people that they will say they're very philosophical. So a lot of people that are they love the philosophy of chiropractic, and they read all the writings of D.D. Palmer and his son B.J. Palmer, and I was going around with all those people. I read a lot of the information, but the way so to me, the process of how D.D. Palmer went to where, found what he did, is more important, and the thoughts that he had behind it were more important than for me to learn word for word what he actually believed, because I believe in constant evolution and growth. So for me, he was a great start, an incredible, from what I understand, him and his son were both incredible minds.
Okay.
And
for that time especially.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning that chiropractic, I think, officially started in 1895. I think osteopathy started in the same year. And at around the same time, you had the whole development, as chiropractic was developing, there were many massive things that were happening around. I think quantum theory were developed, Albert Einstein with his theory of relativity, Madame Curie. Like there was a lot of, from that 1895 until 1920s, it was massive.
Like progress, a lot of
I
progress.
would even call it consciousness shift that was happening around the world in different things. And so D.D. Palmer, people that are really know his stuff will say I'm massacring it, I'm killing it, but it's worth just for a second mentioning where it came from. So D.D. Palmer, I think, was a spiritualist. So he was a person that used all kind of techniques. I'm not really sure what kind of techniques for healing. And then he basically believed, or what he said is that there is a universal intelligence. So now we're going a bit into the woo-hoo kind of thing. But my thing, this is something that really appeals to me. So there is this universal intelligence. And that universal intelligence makes the oceans do their thing and makes the nature be nature. And you know, like all this incredible thing, nature that we see around us, there seems to be some kind of order there. Yeah? And he called it, or other people called it, universal intelligence. And then he said that our body is part of that intelligence. There seems to be an intelligence to the way our body is run. You know, like
So
when you get scratched.
Like the universe is running itself basically.
Yes.
Like the laws of, you know, the spring, the 4 seasons, or
all of that.
Birds and.
Yes,
so
nature.
the body knows its processes,
yes.
so it can heal it.
That's exactly right. So you was talking about that innate intelligence. So your body, when you get scratched, your body knows how to heal it. There's 10, I think it's 10, 10 million biochemical reactions are happening in every cell of your body every second. And that's, I don't know how many trillions of cells in our body doing it. There's order to all of that.
And how our brain is not, we don't know, we don't use the capacity of our brain to the fullest.
That's exactly right. You don't even think about it, and it happens.
Why do you think that is, by the way? Why don't we use the capacity of our brain to the fullest?
I think that it's a really interesting question, because a lot of people say we just use 10% of what.
Do you believe that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that we are unconscious to what our brain does. I think we are unconscious to a lot of the things that our body is doing. And there are people that can make more of their nervous system there, because we always focus only on the brain, but I think that it's the whole body, it's the whole software, it's a whole nervous system that is functioning and receiving and sending information. And so I think we do. It's like we have incredible. So let's go into an interesting place. Okay. I'm very, very interested in people that are savants.
What is that?
Savant is a person that, like the Rain Man is one of those very famous savants. Savants are people that have crazy ability to do things that most people can't do. So, example, there is a guy that when you take him with a helicopter over New York or any other city, put him in a room, and he can, to the biggest, the fullest details, can paint everything he saw. Wow. Yeah? Or the Rain Man, of course, is a famous autistic man, but it was the movie with Tom Cruise, if you remember.
Yes.
With Dustin Hoffman, where he would be able to read with each eye 2 different pages and memorize a whole yellow pages, just like that. Or you have people that are able to tell you what was the day on the 3rd of September, 1730, and they can do that, or calculate the most crazy amount of math, but they can't feed themselves. They can't feed themselves. They need people to feed them. They are disabled.
Well, it makes me think about even autistic people.
Yeah.
When I started learning more about them, how, for example, they're incredibly good in math, often.
Yeah.
But then the social skills is a
That's
challenging
right.
part. Yeah.
Yes. So that goes to the question of, are we only using 10%? So what seems to happen there is that they might be losing some capacity, but then they have incredible other abilities. And then comes the question, how they even learn it? How is it possible for someone that has never been taught to do something to suddenly be able to do all of that? How can they remember enormous amount of music? How come they're experiencing You have people that experience math as colors as like all of that, because most probably we all have it. We're just unconscious of it. We don't have access to it, and that fascinates me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm mind blown. Okay. Oh, well, so with your approach to
Yeah.
chiropractic, the medical
Yeah.
and the spiritual and the intuition,
Yes.
what is your balance? I every time I go visit you, I can see that you're very intuitive into what needs to be
Done.
healed.
Yep.
Yes. So
So for me, can I just go one second back to Didi
Absolutely.
Palmer, because I think that will bring us to where I am and where I feel there is a connection.
okay.
So Didi Palmer basically believed that if there is that innate intelligence in the body, and if there is some kind of interference to that innate intelligence of the
Yep.
body does not express the divine light that it is. It's not living to its fullest potential.
Mm-hmm.
And he called that a subluxation. A subluxation means a condition of being less than divine light.
Interesting.
And this is where a lot of the terminology that is being used by chiropractors actually, that is scientific. They have ways of explaining subluxation in, it's almost a word I don't use anymore, but it can be explained scientifically, but it came from a more spiritual, that's where Didi Palmer came up with it. Now, so basically he talked about if there is an interference to the nervous system. So he believed that interference to the nervous system is what causes it. So that's where you chiropractic, that idea of chiropractic. If there is an interference to the nervous system, your body does not, your body is in a state of dis-ease, it's not in ease, it's not functioning to its fullest capacity. So the idea is doing an adjustment, in this case, adjusting the spine, or putting an input into the nervous system. So for me, any input to the nervous system that creates a change is an adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah, you can listen to music, yeah, and that is a type of adjustment. Yeah,
right.
correct.
Yes.
The idea, but with chiropractors, they're just looking to create the biggest shift that they can, and for chiropractors, they believe that is through adjusting the spine or the nervous system and affecting the nervous system that way.
Okay.
Now, so from the beginning, when I went into chiropractic, I loved that philosophy, and for me, chiropractic is the way that I was expressing my art of being of service to other people.
Okay.
So if people ever listen to me when I'm talking, I constantly talk to the body. This people usually don't even hear it, but I mumble things. What I'm constantly focusing is, how can I serve? Show me, how can I serve? What is the next thing I need to do? What I need to do? This is my little secret that nobody knows. I'm constantly talking to the body. And for me
So when the patient comes, you try to...
how can I serve this person the most right now?
Okay.
That's my main question. And for that, to me, that is a spiritual process. For me, my journey of spirituality is through chiropractic. Yeah,
Okay.
and I know that that's the case for a lot of chiropractors. It is something that is somehow interconnected.
Okay.
That the spiritual process is hand to hand with that becoming serving people and helping people through chiropractic. Now, does it mean that everything I'm doing is you'll call hippie kind of like, no, but that is what sits in my mind. Even when I'm going and doing a manual adjustment, that it's not about what I'm doing, it's about the intention behind what I'm doing that is creating the change.
So, well, in a simple words, that you mean to heal the body.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So a lot of people can, the same as an actress. I'm sure that you know, or you'll agree with me, that we both can say the same words, but who you are while you're doing it
yes.
is what creates the difference.
And
so this is why it's beyond just the technique. The techniques that I'm using are the techniques that I found that I'm able to serve people the most when I'm doing them. And so I always judged what I'm doing through that. It's not that someone else, it can be great for someone else. They can be great at it, but who am I while I'm doing it? Yeah, if that tool is in my hands, can I apply it in an effective and good way that is serving people the most, causing the least harm? Because that's a very important aspect as well, is to be effective, serving people, helping people while doing the least amount of harm.
Did you ever have an experience where something went wrong?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Because again, going into, it's interesting that you're mentioning it, you with your intuition, but I remember when I was a student, I went to see John Demartini. John Demartini is a famous chiropractor that became into we'll call it a spiritual, motivational speaker or inspirational speaker. And he said that the greatest healers are the ones that are prepared to take the risk. If you are prepared that someone will die in your hands, that is the space where you can create the most difference, because you're not holding back, you're not fearful, you're not constantly thinking, oh my God, you're there 100%. To make a difference. You're serving to the 100% every person in front of you. You're not everyone wants to be safe. I want to be safe all the time. But at any point of time, I need to be able to know that I'm going to do my best while doing everything I can to make it as safe as possible. What's the leading cause of liver transplant in children?
I don't know.
Panadol.
Wow.
Panadol is the number one cause for liver failure in children.
Oh my God!
Yeah?
I just gave my daughter Panadol yesterday.
Yeah. But you would never think about that, right?
It's considered really safe.
Yes.
They give it to babies.
Yes, and statistically, Panadol is chiropractic. Get this: chiropractic is 1,000,000 times safer than a Panadol. Yeah.
My God.
And so what? You're not going to use Panadol? Yeah. Are there surgeries that fail? Yes. Are there medication that fail?
Absolutely.
Yes.
When I was thinking about my questions and about the scary part of complications, about other things, and then I was like, well, is there any surgeon that never had complications?
No.
Right?
That's exactly right.
I guess as a patient, when you go into dentistry,
yes,
when you go under surgery, when you do all those things, there are risks.
Yes, and they tell you that. And you sign, they tell you all the things that can go wrong. Yes. And they do go wrong sometimes. But you have to do the... you have to
agree with that.
Yes. So can I be slightly controversial right now? Go is controversial. So there is a surgeon right now in Australia that is in a lot of trouble. Charlie Tay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that
The
implant?
neurosurgeon. He's a neurosurgeon.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was promising people to recover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. He has operated on a friend of mine, and my friend had a tumor in his brain that nobody wanted to operate on. Nobody. Everyone said that's it, he can't. But he did. He operated on him, and to my knowledge, my friend is still alive. I think has got married and had a life after
When was
that.
that?
When was it?
Yeah.
Around 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's still alive.
He's still alive because someone took a risk and said, okay, let's try. And he made a difference. And I'm sure that, so a lot of people, it's really, we live in a culture where there's a lot of cancel thing.
Cancel culture, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it is about taking a risk. It is about taking, doing the best you can for the person.
Risk, I
Correct,
guess.
educated risk. And that's a lot to do with that evidence-based medicine. So this is where a lot of, we're moving toward evidence-based medicine. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is that even that has limitations. Because evidence-based medicine is very good with things like medication. So what's evidence-based medicine? Saying, okay, we have medication, yeah?
We have for example, because I just had a baby 2 years ago, right? So the only medication I'm allowed to give her as a parent is Panadol or Nurofen. Kids, and then I know if I give her Panadol, her fever will go down.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the evidence.
Yeah, but the evidence-based medicine is to say, here is a medication. We have done trials, and in those trials, we gave people this medication. We have control, so we gave people fake or placebo.
Yep.
And we gave some people, we didn't give the treatment, and they got better, right? So that's kind of the idea of any treatment you're doing, that there will be evidence that it's better than placebo and better than doing nothing. The issue with it is that even that is limited, because how would you prove if a knee surgery, so there was a very famous story, I think, of an orthopedic surgeon that used to do knees, people that have arthritis in their knees. And he said, okay, surgery on the knees, that must be evidence-based medicine. And so he got the permission to open people up and just make the noise of like he's doing a surgery, but he didn't actually do anything. And those people got better as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that leads us to that belief.
Correct. So, and so even with things like, and that's one of the challenges, for example, that chiropractors have to deal with, is that when I'm doing an adjustment, I know what is the correct adjustment to do in the right direction when I'm doing it in the right way. Yeah. And so if I'm doing something that is not, I know that I'm not doing the right thing. The client might feel that I'm not doing the right thing. So it's much harder to have that evidence-based medicine.
Right.
So evidence-based medicine is all the pharmacy and all the pharmaceutical companies, that works in their paradigm, but it doesn't apply to everything. Not to say that we can't use it, we should use it, but it has its limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever take Panadol?
No. No. No, because I believe that I am a big believer that fever is very important for the body.
Yes, I do know about that.
Yeah.
Do you have a chiropractor?
Yes, I have a chiropractor that actually inspired me to change my techniques and work in a different way. His name is Chris. Gilchrist is in Lillfield. Yeah, he's a master at what he does.
Okay. Coming back to trust, because to heal people you have to have trust in yourself that you can do that. But also, I'm assuming I can share my story. I was so scared when you started adjusting me.
Yeah.
And I asked David if, I'm like, do you ever feel like it's going to break your neck? And he's like, yeah, of course, thoughts come to my mind.
Yeah.
So, and also coming back to your question to Abraham Hicks
Yep.
about the fear in a person. So the difference is someone who comes to you all the time and trusts you.
Yep.
Would there be a difference if there was a person who is afraid, not sure, just someone brought them here?
Yeah.
I guess it's like three questions in one. Your trust in yourself to do the right thing by a person, and then the patients who have trust in you, and the patients who come to see you but they don't have trust in you.
Yes, and there's even research to check that. So they found that all of those aspects, when someone actually gets better or not getting better, they checked how much of all those factors are making a difference. And all of them are important. All of them are important. This is something, I have people that they, you know, when you go and someone you really trust and they say something, you like trust that they give you the right advice, and or they give you the particular treatment, you trust it, and that itself has a lot of power. We know the power of placebo. Even placebo, just the idea that you believe in what you're doing makes a difference. And so if all of those things matter, my job is to find a way that this person that might be fearful, worried, that I do able to earn their trust, and that I'll be able to do things in a way that they can trust me. And when I do something and I'm not helping them, or not helping them enough, or not standing up to their expectation, the human part of me gets disappointed. Of course.
Part of me.
Yeah.
What is the other part of you?
The other part. So there's the egoic part that gets disappointed, the human part. The other part says, I might be just, there is a journey for this person. This person is going through a journey, and I might...
it's not the right time.
It's not the right time, it's not the right place, or I might be the thing that is moving them towards the direction that they want.
I see.
Or they need. Many times I will say to someone, I might not be what you want, but I might be what you need. Yeah, and that's all of that.
It's very popular in Russia, that expression.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I want to ask you about this quite popular belief that, let's say if I have back pain, I'm carrying too much weight on my shoulders.
Yes.
Tell me, what do you think about that?
So what you're asking, let's name it. So there is a very famous book called You Can Heal Your Life by this writer, very famous, Louise. There are many books about the subject, and it's that idea that, if I, exactly like you said, I have issues with my shoulders, I'm carrying the world on my shoulders. If my neck is stiff, I'm not flexible enough. My lower back is, my lower back, I'm financially insecure. All kind of things like that. And a lot of people believe in it. I think in part of my evolution, I at some point got to a place where I realized that some of the time it might be true. Like cold reading, I can say something that sometimes will sound true, but many times it's not the case. And the reason, now let's be controversial again, I really...
I love that.
What the research is showing, and it's not only research, that's even in all the spiritual circles, is the fact that we are conscious only of 10% of what is going on with us, but we are unconscious of 90% of. We don't know why we do what we do, or why things happen the way they. But the 10% tend to give it meaning. We as humans are meaning-seeking machine. We constantly try to give meaning to things.
Justify.
Why? Why is it like that? Why is it like that? And through my whole process, so through working with people and reading, learning, everything, I found out that, excuse my French, because it's not French, we're full of shit most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah? And so we don't know. You don't know why things happen because we are constantly living in such a complex environment. Like even you and I come from Israel, having my childhood, my life, my genetics, my parents, my brothers, sisters, and you coming from Russia. If you have neck pain and I have a neck pain, is it the same for the same reason? Is your if you have shoulder issues and I have shoulder, is it from the same reason or maybe not? You know, like, and that comes into something that which is very interesting to me, is that we all the time assume that the person in front of me is like me.
Yes.
Yeah, that this person in front of me has the same kind of emotions like me, the same facial expression like me. But it's not the case. We are all unique.
Yeah.
There's a saying that I really love. You are unique like everybody else. And so this is why that idea that saying, because I think that belief that, oh, I have this thing in my body because of this, because I'm negative, because I can't forgive someone, I can't forgive my mom, therefore I have this pain. That itself can be unhelpful because it can bring you in a place where you're saying, okay, so it's all my fault. And there is a difference between my fault and me taking responsibility. But in the moment you leave it, okay, it's all my fault. If I have this, if I have cancer here, it's because I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough even to forgive. I'm not good enough to be healthy. I'm not forgiving enough. I'm not good enough to get better like all those people around me. If I'm sick, it's because somehow I'm not as good as the people around me. Well, no. That itself, that belief, that itself can be harmful for someone.
I see. Thank you, Shalom. I want to ask you, just to mix it up.
Yep.
Proust Questionnaire.
All right.
I'm going to ask you a question, just short answers, kind of first things that come in your mind.
Yes, that will be challenging. As you can see, I love talking, but yes, I can do it.
Yes. Okay. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Of what?
Perfect happiness.
My definition of happiness is seeing the divinity in every second, in everything. So loving what is perfect.
Which historical figure do you most identify with?
I don't know. I don't know. Historical figure that feels to me that. We'll come back to it.
Okay. Which living person do you most admire?
There are a lot of people I admire. I found, Leonard Cohen to be very interesting. I loved Malcolm Gladwell. I love all kind of athletes, scientists. There's too many to count.
Okay. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself? Dislike?
I think I think that I have some kind of melancholy. I think I have a strong tendency towards being not negative but sad. I think that in the essence of it, I think it's there. I started believing that comes from my dad and my background, so that's it.
What is the trait you most deplore in others?
Dishonesty. I don't like when people are dishonest.
What is the greatest What is your greatest extravagance?
Yes, I don't know. I tend to have very simple life. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe watching a movie with ice cream.
What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
In people, don't know. Something in that it's not knowledge. I don't know. I think that for me, I believe in. I'll just say that I believe that people are here to serve each other, help each other, and someone that is just all about beauty, something that is shallow, something that is just about having.
Appearance.
Yeah,
Looks.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not my thing.
Okay. On what occasion do you lie?
When I need to save myself from a, a kind of, does this jeans look my bum look big? I'll say no. You look fantastic. Yeah.
This is a survival skill.
Survival things. Yeah, I need to live another day.
What is your greatest regret?
I don't know that I can think of one. I think that I tend to. I'm sure I have one. I just can't think about it. I tend to kind of like move where I am, and I am where I am, and I'm trying to be okay with that.
Okay. When and where are you happiest?
I think watching when my girls happy, when I see them joyful and happy, and when I see my wife happy and joyful, that makes me happy.
Beautiful. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that anytime I think I have, number one, my daughters. I think I look at them and I'm thinking, oh my God, how, I don't even know if I even helped in any way there. I'm not really sure. But I think anytime I made a difference in someone's life, to me, that's big. So I used to think that maybe when I'll finish university and become a chiropractor, that will be a big achievement. And now I think the biggest achievement, you know what, I will say this. My biggest achievement is that I am now married for 23 years, happily married with my girls, living where I live in a different country, and I'm happy. That's my achievement.
That's beautiful. If you could choose to come back as something, what would it be?
I don't know. The only answer I have now is a dolphin.
What is your most treasured possession?
I don't know. I really don't know. I am a minimalist. I tend to. I think my phone, because of all the audiobooks that I have in it, all that potential for knowledge, and I think my car, anything that happens to my car, I get really, really lose my mind a little bit. It's my kryptonite.
Okay.
Yes.
Where would you like to live?
I think that always to be really truthful, when I lived on the kibbutz on the Dead Sea, overlooking the Dead Sea, that was my heaven. I remember that to me, that was where I feel it was that felt like home to me. But then I think anywhere else I can make into my home as well. I love nature. I like stillness, and so anywhere can be perfect.
What is your favorite occupation?
Interesting. Mentalists and stand-up comedians, the two things that I love. So mentalists are people that look like they are reading people's minds. They look like they are doing magic and something that is, you know, crazy, like, you know, reading minds, moving things in space. I love that. I think that that's an amazing occupation. If I could come back, I might be that, or a stand-up comedian. I love the idea that making other people laugh. I love it.
It's a part of healing, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's amazing.
What is your most marked characteristics?
I have no idea. You'll have to ask other people. What am I? I like to talk a lot, no?
What do you most value in your friends?
That they will love and accept me regardless, unconditionally. I want them always to be honest to me and tell me tell me what they believe, tell me the truth, but be there regardless.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your favorite writers?
Ooh. I am now going through an obsession with Leonard Cohen. So I love him as a poet and his music. I connect to it on deeper level that I don't really understand. So I'm trying to understand, but there is something about his songs, about his poems that speaks to a very deep level in me. Another one is Malcolm Gladwell. I read all his books until he recently annoyed me in one of his podcasts. He annoyed me, but until then he was.
Okay. What are your heroes in real life?
I don't know. I think that people that are not conventional, they don't do what everybody else does. People that are helping, that are serving other people in some way. I don't know. I think that it's maybe original thinkers and people that help and serve other people, that make a positive change in people's life. I like that.
How would you like to die?
Ooh, wow. Peacefully, as old as possible.
What is your motto?
My
Motto.
further. Yeah, that idea that don't stop, keep moving forward. It comes from a book by Jed McKenna, another writer that I really love, and that idea of constantly learning more, evolving more, getting further and further and further until you got there. I never got there.
Thank you, Shalom.
Thank you.